This was one of the more recent ones, actually. This was from when we were at the Historical Society, so we got a lot of good responses that day. And I just sort of really liked this response because it was really poignant and
what are the
it
questions?
had a lot to go with it. Well, the first question is, how do you think Reading has changed in the past 5 years, and how have you changed in the past 5 years? So sometimes people fill them both out, which is great. Sometimes they don't really have as much to say about one as they have to say about the other, so they'll only do one, which is also fine. And sometimes people say surprisingly similar things, so it's sort of harder to write an individualized piece over something I've already written about. But in this case, it was very unique, and I'll just sort of give you an excerpt from
Yeah,
it.
let
which
me
is
see
what I wrote off
the
of.
page.
I
So
hid the
that's
name.
what it.
This is what it
that's
looks
what they
like.
wrote. Okay, what did they write
And
on?
this woman wrote that she's changed with my daughter mostly. She's gone from being 12 to 17, and she completed graduate classes. She's talking about herself in this case, but she's still working on her thesis. She started to like, I guess, amateur football. There's an abbreviation. And she's gotten real glasses now because her vision is giving away. So a lot of people have written like, I've gotten older and things like that. But she's more specific about how she's gotten older. But I really just like the part where she's talking about how she's growing with her daughter, because that just sort of seems like a really, like symbiotic relationship. Like they're both growing together, they're both changing, but they're at different stages in their life. So I was writing this morning, and the poem I wrote for her was called With My Daughter. It's kind of like Not Without My Daughter, but different. And then the piece is, mostly I've changed along with my daughter over the past 5 years. She's gone from being 12 to 17, from a girl to a woman. I've seen her grow into the person she is going to be, and I realize that I must be getting older too. So that's sort of just one of my shorter pieces. It's still kind of a work in progress rather, because I've only written it, and usually when I type them, I decide where my line breaks are going to be, whether or not I think it's aesthetically pleasing, if I don't really like the shape of it. It's weird. I can't ever tell ahead of time what it's going to end up looking like, but if I think, oh, it should be longer, it should be shorter, I might end up adding things or deleting them.
So for you, it's a mixture of aesthetics, how it looks on the page,
Yeah.
and how it sounds.
Right.
They
well,
both have
mainly,
to.
I mean, like, especially the first time I write it, I focus mainly on how it sounds, because that's just getting the idea down, hopefully accurately, trying to transfer whatever the emotion is just into the written word, my own written word, not their written words, but having them work together. And then usually when I go back, I take whatever I've written, and as you can tell, I write really large, so it looks a lot smaller when you type it. And this is the one I just read. And then I try to see where I would want the line breaks to be. And it's usually not like full sentence and then full sentence and full sentence. It's more a fragment and then maybe a comma or no punctuation at all, and then the rest of the thought. And there could be like a few thoughts in one verse and then just one singular thought by itself in a separate verse. It's just depending on where I kind of want to put the weight of the words.
So you use the
makes
line
sense.
break as.
So I use the line break as my
emphasis,
as my point of emphasis mainly, and I don't really focus that much on like whether or not I'm writing in iambic pentameter or something like that. So I'm not quite as focused on the beat of the line or what the syntax is. I just kind of want to get the idea out there in as concise a way as possible, unless it's one of those ideas that needs to be more thoroughly developed, and then there's kind of no telling. It could be longer, but mainly I just focus on the way that I think it should sound in that one part, and I like to sort of make whatever the part of the line is something that could be an idea on its own, but you need to continue reading to get what the full effect might be. So for this one, the first line might be, mostly I've changed. Okay, that's sort of an indication of how it's gone on. But then from there, it might be along with my daughter on the next line. So it's sort of just like adding to the story. And then when you get to the end, that's...
It's a haiku, kind of
haiku?
haiku inspired.
I did write a few haikus during this
Because
process.
it seemed like that
but
addition of.
it's kind of like that, but not necessarily in like the 575 word count or syllable count. But it's kind of that idea where you are sort of like, it's kind of like fluctuating, like here's the idea, and then it grows, and then it sort of tightens back into itself.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a haiku in that way, but not necessarily
In the
me
meter.
counting syllables. Yeah, don't sit there and go. It's a poem. But I did write a few haikus just because one day I was sort of, not fed up with per se, but I'd had enough of free verse for one afternoon. So I sat there and I thought, well, I'll write some haikus today. And that's a lot easier, only because they are so small. It's really just like the slightest glimpse of an idea, and then you move on to something else. And this is slightly more developed, but at the same time, it's just supposed to be like the verbal equivalent of a snapshot. So you're not really like taking the whole day to like videotape someone's life. You're just taking them in that one moment, and that's kind of what it's supposed to capture.
Yeah.
But hopefully,
Well, then
people
you're
think that it
gonna
does that.
come back and do this once a week. We're gonna have.
Yes. Well, today we're here until 7, but usually we're at the Goggle-Works every Monday from 4 to 12. And we're actually going to be, well, just for tomorrow, depending on when this video goes up, we're just going to be at the Historical Society for tomorrow, also from 12 to 4. And I don't know if we're going to do that again in the future, but if we are, I'll let you know.
Okay.
But every Monday, we will definitely be at the Goggle-Works from 12 to 4, now through August 10th.
And you will give us a poetry update.
If you so desire, yes.
I would love that.
I will definitely do that then. Yes, I will.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Get my cleavage in that.